Hi, good evening, everyone. So I don't have any idea who are developers here or who are whichever roles. Okay, that's fine. That's cool. We've got some developers in the house. GitHub is quite a famous platform for open source, of course. But today I want to talk about GitHub Codespaces. I don't know if anyone is familiar with GitHub Codespaces and what it entails, but it's quite cool. And it's the future, I would say, for development anywhere, where we want to go towards, developing in a Tesla, those kind of things is something that I get quite excited about. Gone are the days where you need to get a powerful PC to run .net or something like that, right? Or whatever floats your boat. So basically, GitHub Codespaces is a way to instantly spawn up your development environment to start working, right? So as developers, we all know that very first day you walk into the office, you want to start on that Hello World application or whatever that might be, and you just want to get coding. You just want to, get your first commit out. But then there's this framework and that framework. Maybe you have to install VLC. We know, all these things need to happen for you to get going, right? There's always like the whole day setup, right? And that costs time, that costs money, and blah, 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 blah. So it's fun sometimes, but other times it leaves you frustrated, right? So in hindsight, how can we get to quicker turnaround times to get the developer doing what it does best, coding, and produce value, right? And if you look at it, if we look at a dev environment, there's a lot of things. It's not just a editor, right? Yes, you have your editor, but also you have your source code, you have your debugger, you have your runtimes, packages, tools, terminal, extensions, a bunch of things that work together that coordinate this whole thing. Visual Studio Code is an environment, part of an environment that lets you do things on. So the basic crux of a dev environment is kind of fairly complicated in this sense. If we look at a development infrastructure, they say no single server is unique. It's indispensable, replaceable. Local dev environments, not the cloud, but local dev environments, my machine, for instance, it breaks a lot. It's flaky. You clone some code now, or you work on something local, you move it to a different machine. Those stickers I have, it works on my machine. Exactly that. Local dev environments, it's a risk, right? Also, when you git pull something the next time, it might pull down the company, literally, because it happened before where there was some bug. I'm not entirely sure the story, but there was some bug somewhere, and they did something on source control, and they pulled down each and anyone's machines because it started doing this npm thing on the background, right? As a script, which is a kind of a bit naughty. And all of our developers, we spend most of our time in dev environments. So the experience should be the best, right? It's not in Chrome, it's not in wherever the code runs, it's where it lives, right? So that's important. So the traditional way of workings, we typically have developer hardware, but then, your big banks and your enterprise companies these days have these pre-provisioned machines with OS images. Or not machines, but you rock up there with your laptop and they say, hey, there's a VDI. Have fun, right? But typically these VDIs are locked down. You can only open Notepad in it. Right? You cannot install stuff on it. I don't know if anyone has worked for a big enterprise company. If you want to install Git or something, you have to log a support call. And then half of the day is gone, right? Then you don't get me started. Then we can move to virtual machines, right? Great, make it rain, virtual machines, whoopie-doo. It's easy, Azure makes it very easy to kind of spawn up a virtual machine, Amazon as well. In 2 clicks, you have a virtual machine running. You can run your development environment in there. But it's not exactly as green as we want it to be, right? So a big-ass machine, sorry for the language, to run your Hello World application, it is not really scalable, right? So it is an option, but it's a bulky option, if you ask me. Then there's things like Chocolatey and Winget and all those kind of things that retrofit your local environment where you open up your Windows or your Linux, whatever, and you just run Chocolatey and it sorts out the rest of you. That works, right? But it's a single point of failure, right? When something happens, it can still break your machine. Okay. So the elevator pitch, just want to kind of change gears a bit on what Codespaces is. It's an instant cloud-powered and fully managed dev environment that are customizable and personalizable to your needs. So fully customizable and fully personalizable. So what does that mean? You can customize how it works, what gets run, not exactly where it's hosted, but you don't have to worry about it, that's SaaS. But you can also personalize it to your needs. Given that your company has policies, and yourself have policies or security settings you can set up, you can personalize it. But you can even go down to per user and set it like that. And the cool thing is, this runs from anywhere. So I like to kind of do these experiments. That's kind of crazy, sometimes stupid. I think that's most of the time why demos never work, because I go and try to run these things on number 99. I change my plans. I want to run this on a phone, right? So later on, we'll see how we can run a .NET application. We'll do a bug fix from my phone, and we'll run it and then see how that works, just because we can, right? So why not? And just to show that you can really run it anywhere, on a fridge, Tesla, phone. And it even doesn't need to be a phone that's an iPhone. It can be anything that has a browser, right? But it also comes with the full power of Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code developers out there, I don't know, it's the new Notepad. Yeah. It won't surprise me if they bring in Visual Studio Code as the default editor in Windows 10 or 11 or 12. That will be awesome. It's already starting to go that way, because I think for the first time, Notepad is there's a dark mode for Notepad, which is quite cool. Because I do live coding myself, I'm on Twitch and YouTube and all those kind of channels. And then normally you're on dark mode, you have this little dark mode setting, you look like a ninja, hacker man, you do your things. All of a sudden you want to open Notepad, this white light just shines in your eyes and your whole light is off, kind of a thing. So kind of dark mode is a thing, right? So that's Visual Studio Code, but this environment is kind of faster than your laptop. We are talking about the 16 until a 32 core, 64 gig RAM, 128 gig storage. Okay, it's borderline, but you can ask for more if you really need more. If you want to do 3D rendering and those kind of things, you probably can just ask them, You can upgrade with a single line of code. Infrastructure as code is built in, right? So gone are the days filling in forms, asking IT to bring you a new hard drive. You just commit, and then your team has a new version of memory rolled out. So this is where the world is moving towards. I also briefly spoke about customizability. So this is something called a dev container. We'll also dive into that in a second. But if you squint and you take away all the squigglies, it looks like a YAML file. And it also almost looks like a Docker file in a sense, but it's not. But it kind of orchestrates a Docker file. What's in here, we can see there's like a name and there's like an image, but you can also point it to a Docker Compose orchestration. So you're not bound to one image. You can do like a cluster of things together. You can configure forwarded ports if you want to. You can set your settings. That's default for this. So in this case, they set this, the shell. Whoever clones this, it will be bash, right? You have a post-create command, for instance, that it's like what it needs to do when it's done. So there's a lot of lifecycle events. And then there's a bunch of extensions, which is powerful because Copilot is awesome, and I've spoke about my previous demo I gave last week, or no, not last week, last month at Amsterdam meetup. I used Copilot in my demo, and it's surprisingly good, right? And imagine you can give that power to your developers without thinking about it. Instead of saying, hey, you need to download that thing, it's just there, right? So it's very powerful. So it's the whole extensions are open up to all the extensions that's available. I believe you can also limit it if you don't want people to install things. That's on the marketplace. So GitHub Codespaces, GitHub is fairly a company that dogfoods their own thing, right? So Corey Wilkerson from GitHub, they've recently moved their workload from a Mac OS model to Codespaces to run github.com. Right? That's most probably why VideoLAN is running on GitLab, because it's not Mac OS anymore. But, joking. But this says something, because the company itself believes in Codespaces so much, they moved to Codespaces themselves for their core product, right? So let's quickly dive into that, kind of a history lesson why they did that. It's a lower barrier to entry. So there are kind of two things here, right? The one thing is a lower barrier of entry, whereby you have new onboardings, new colleagues coming to join. I had the whole talk again. You have infrequent users, where you have, for instance, your odd Power BI developer or BI person that just wants to do this one thing, or this data scientist that just wants to do this one thing. They don't need to wait a week for a development environment to be organized. They just want it now to do their thing and commit and go. And it's very ideal for junior engineers, because now, ask a junior engineer, nowadays, everyone wants to go to Kubernetes, right? This guy's just straight out of varsity. He barely knows C# or C++ how to do a Hello World application. Now you throw containers and Kubernetes and Docker Compose at him. It doesn't scale. That poor person is scared. He's like, what? So it's ideal for junior programmers not to worry about what's happening around them. Just focus on their code. The other side of the coin is it's decreased distraction, where you can actually work in isolation. You don't have to worry about my machine that's running Windows 11 or 10 or 8 or whatever, and it might have impact the next time I do .NET restore on that thing. And the cool thing is, if there's a bug in production, you can actually accurately reproduce that bug. Because how many times is there a bug in production? You git clone that branch, you try to run it, but it works. You have to figure out, okay, now it's a different version, or it's maybe an environmental variable, or all that kind of stuff. You can take that branch and run it on the phone, fix it, and fix the bug, and Bob's your uncle, right? So for me, a lower barrier to entry and decreased distraction is really, or increased productivity. That's where we want to move towards, that increased productivity. So it all started with like one script to rule them all in GitHub. This is actually to clone the whole github.com repo. Git clone, and then do like script bootstrap, set up some stuff, set up the server, and hope for the best, right? And they say, like I mentioned before, local environments are kind of fragile. Sometimes this happens. Then the .com gem environment's out of date. It has to be bootstrapped. Now I have to do this and that and this and that, to fix other things. And then don't get me started on versioning trees and those kind of things. And sometimes versioning are not compatible with other versioning, and then it's a mess. So while GitHub is adopting Codespaces, initially it took them 20 minutes to clone a 13 gig GitHub repo. Bootstrapping cost them 45 minutes, right? And it was still flaky. So around 1 hour, you have an environment, which is not bad, but it's an hour, right? So then they actually took the next mile into 45 minutes, make it, was that 45 minutes? Yeah, so from 20 minutes, it's actually 60 minutes to 10 seconds, sorry. So from 45 minutes to 10 seconds, here's what they've done. They've done one-on-one mapping between branches and code spaces. They tried to shallow clone the stuff up front. That makes it 85% quicker cloning rate. They also have these pre-baked images. So there's a notion of your own images, but there's also pre-baked images. It's kind of building blocks that you can just extend on. And then there's also something called pre-builds, which is it's a ready-to-use image that you can just grab and go and use it. It really doesn't take much time to spawn up. So this is how they got their whole GitHub. It's probably running on that 64 gig master machine, but 10 seconds to clone that thing and run it. It's not bad, I would say. Talk is cheap. So let's quickly show you what I have here, all right? So, well, this is not my, oh, I've got the wrong, can I do that? Will that still work? That still works, right? I should have actually just ended the presentation, but anyway, it should be fine. You can see there, right? I think that's big enough. Is that fine? Yeah. Also for our online friends, should be fine. So this is GitHub. I'm on your browser. You know, yes, I'm running Windows 11 right now, and I've got a bunch of this. Is my dev laptop, and it's old and all that kind of things. And yes, I've got .NET installed in this thing. But just forget about those things for a second. And I'm in a browser like all GitHub repos are. Just one quick thing. Did you know when you log into your account and you go to a repo and you press dot, you know what happens? It opens up Visual Studio Code, which is amazing. So if you like you don't want to install stuff, you just want to code stuff, just press dot, and you literally, if you see the address bar, it goes to github.dev. I'm going to also do this. I'm going to also be cool. Bloop. No, that doesn't work. Yay. That doesn't work there. So it goes to github.dev and it literally just opens up Visual Studio Code in GitHub. It's nothing fancy. It's been around for a while. But it's a convenient way to quickly do that little, you can do this on the phone as well, but that's not what I want to show you. Do that one little bug fix, Do that thing, and when you save, it will just do the pull requests and all. You can go through the same flows, Never code on master, just always do your thing, but we're on master now, so who can stop us? But the funny thing is, I can actually now commit my stuff in here, I can do things, but if you have policy set up in GitHub, and this is also not what I want to talk about, but you can actually stop those things from happening and force a branch to be created and all that kind of things, so you can build those things in GitHub. So let's quickly just can that for now. So we are in GitHub now, right? And I'm going to go to this remote explorer thing. And I've got already, I already have a code space running. Excuse me. I just want to go to GitHub again. And this repo is on the Raytech Solutions repository, so you can just go check it out. It's open and those kind of things. So instead of cloning, you can always clone a repository and those kind of things, doing the normal ways. But then there's this new tab called Codespaces, where you can pick a code space where these things need to be run on, right? Typically, this is already pre-spawned one, but typically there's nothing there. You can just click the Create Code Space button, and you can pick I only have one configuration, but you can pick a configuration and it will put the stuff in there, right? So I already have a musical, and it's funny how it gives it this funny names. Musical space meme. That's my environment. It's always like playing musical code spaces chairs, where you don't know what environment you will get. It's amazing. So I've got this now, so what I will do, you can do it multiple ways. You can do it like the easy way in the UI, just click there and it will open up. You can also go in the online Visual Studio Code editor. You can go to this remote explorer that they're there, and you can it will pop up the code spaces that's available, and you can just click connect. That's exactly the same way as clicking run in that code spaces thing. So what is happening now, it's actually setting up my code space. It's already running, so it's just connecting to it. Just for the sake of the talk, really kind of warming it up there. But I could have my PC actually crashed, so I had to spin it up again. It's no big deal. But it's starting up now, this whole thing in a browser. And you also can, while this thing is starting up, I'm just talking through this. Hopefully this won't crash again. In the browser address, you can see there's like gibberish. Like Fanie Reynders, Ratic Solutions, demos, and then this code, github.dev. That's the unique name for this environment, right? Which means it's that, what's it called? Musical space meme. I don't know why I just used that in there. Musical space meme. That could have been much better. But as I talk, this is a quite different picture that you saw before, right? I've got like 2 screens here. While this thing is streaming in, this is the vanilla code, Visual Studio Code thing that you see. The other one is Visual Studio Code on steroids. Now it actually injects all these extensions for you. It sets, if you use a different terminal, I use ZSH, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it looks cool. There's my dot files configured already, this style of CLI for me, for instance. My terminal is maximized, has also a setting that I've set. But funny enough, this is in a browser, right? So that's, for me, it's like my whole environment. What is it called again? I keep on forgetting the name. The musical space meme is in a browser, right? And I've got this application, so I've got this chores application, this to-do application that I'm busy building, and I'm making an API for this. And it's basically not, well, it's not done yet. It's just showing a list of to-dos, who has done it and, is it completed or not. So it's a very simple API. Actually, let me quickly show you. So I'm in my browser now. I can just hit like run. There we go, run. And that should kind of, without having .NET Core on your machine or those kind of things, it should then, run the application. This is a .NET application, so hence the meetup is .NET.Amsterdam. But this could have been a Ruby application or whatever, right? So just in the light of .NET, we'll just use .NET. And this is a typical .NET Core API application that's using a SQL database in the back, right? So you've got SQL running in a browser. Technically not, but it's there. You've got port forwarding, right? So you can now click on this button. It's a 404, I know, but that's because that root is not there. But if I go to chores, there's my API that's bringing in my my JSON for my API that's running, right? And I can show you there's no smoke and mirrors. If I just stop this whole thing, look at the logs. There's entity framework that has done migrations and all kind of wonderful things. If I refresh here, it will just say bad gateway, right? It is literally forwarded the port from the cloud to my local machine and done the cool things. Great. So another cool thing is, let me just quickly open up this dev container. So can you see there, dev container? Maybe that's okay. So in dev container folder, you can do a bunch of things. So I've added MS SQL, which contains all the SQL tooling, to like the SQL client and those kind of things. And then you have a Docker Compose file that's optional, but you can use that. And then you have a Docker file, for instance. So let's quickly go into the dev container file. I don't know why it's like opening it up now in a bit silly way. Oh, I know, because I 1 second, I just want to kill this terminal. There we go. That should be visible. So let's quickly see in here. So we have a name, we just call it C#.NET and MSQL. Oh, by the way, you can also generate this from tooling within Visual Studio Code, right? So I'll show you that in a second. There's a Docker Compose file. I say, okay, well, that's the Docker Compose file I'm looking at if I'm going to spawn up this application. And a bunch of other things like, you know, my workspace name and those kind of things. Then we get into customization. If you're using Visual Studio Code, I'm sure there's other editors as well, like Rider or whatever, you can also do a bunch of cool things. There's the settings I want to use. And I know there's a password in here, but that's local development. It shouldn't really matter, right? There's your SQL connections configuration. There's your editor configuration. So for the purposes of the demo, I made a font very big. I've chosen my bash script, my Zen mode there. You know, all these kind of things. If I go through the whole experience of going to presenter mode, it will just be as I wanted it to be, for instance. Then there's extensions. So, you know, I'm installing C#, I'm installing the SQL extensions. Copilot is by my side in here. And we've got this presentation mode thing, which is quite cool. I haven't really tested it out, but it's basically, that's presenter mode. It's like full screen, but that's one cool thing for presentation. So that works at least. But here on the side, now, like you have your user-specific extensions, right? That me as a user, I'm logged in. I've got these extensions. But then you have your environment extensions, and they merge it together. And it's funny, I don't know how they work out the conflicts and stuff like that, but it's for me as a person, so if someone else clones this whole repo, they might have different extensions, but they will always have the dev environments extensions that as a team lead, you can give your team. Like in this case, there's Azure, CLI, there's Docker, and all those kind of things. And then there's not, of course, we've got a full-blown SQL password. We've got a SQL client. I don't want to add it to LastPass though. There's my to-do application, right? So I can go to the chores. I can view my goodness there, right? There's the, come on, run it. And that should bring back the results set, whoopie-doo. But some people don't like this, right? Some people like the CLI better, right? So if we just maybe go back to the whole Docker file thing, so just go back again. So in the dev container, we specify the Docker Compose. In here, we have the application, which is now my .NET environment that I've set up, right? I specify my volumes and those kind of things, but also my database, I get it from the SQL Server image, and I set my environmental variables in there and connect them together in Bob Shankle. I must say this is sometimes a bit flaky, sometimes it just stops. I have no idea how to restart it again, so I just kill the image and just, it takes me 2 minutes and it's, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's better than throwing your laptop away every 2 minutes, right? So it's, in that case. So in this Docker file, it's basically just getting a special version of the .NET image that has some things for .NET and the stuff for .NET tooling installed. And here you can see it also installs the SQL tools. It also installs the dev certificates, HTTPS things for local development, and also it installs the entity framework migration scripts. But I'm going to try something else, right? So I'm going to, you know, I showed you when I run my application. Let's actually do it again. Now let's be a command line person. No offense against command line people, right? So .NET run, I think this will work, right? And then it should run. Okay? It should give me that. And it goes chores and it should give me that, right? So that's cool. But that's a browser. I want to be in a CLI. I want to party in the CLI. So what you do is you just create a new, what do you call it, a new terminal. And there's something called httprepl. I don't know if you are familiar with httprepl, anyone. But it's awesome. So given that you have Swagger, so hopefully you understand what Swagger is. So Swagger is a way of indexing your API, right? But it doesn't exist. So httprepl does not. It doesn't work, right? I could have it on my machine, but it doesn't find it in here. So it as far as it's concerned, it doesn't have that command, right? So we can add it. We can add it very quickly. Just want to see where. Oh yeah, I need to close this. Where's my? There we go. It's actually irritated that it's. Give me 1 second. There we go. So I'm just gonna do that, right? And if you notice here on the right-hand side, it kind of picked up that my container image changed. So it's offering to rebuild it for me. But what about my code that I'm busy coding, right? And also you can notice now from this case, there's like a pending change in source control. So this change is in source control, but I could have had other changes that's business logic. But what about my image? Well, it turns out that it kind of just works. Because it's a different container, it only builds that one container. It won't touch the other stuff, right? So yes, I want to, oh, okay, well, where's that prompt? Yeah, normally the prompt is there, you can just say rebuild. So if you want to actively rebuild your, where's the thing? It's not here. Interesting. If you want to actively rebuild your, I don't know where the thing is. Let's just make another change. Where's my pop-up? If you want to actively rebuild your image, there is this, where's my remote? There's supposed to be a remote thing here. I don't know. Remote container. Okay, well, it's not in here. I don't know, sometimes, no, it's supposed to be there, but I don't know why it's not there now. Nevertheless, let's go to the Docker file again and just redo it. Didn't pick up the change now. Come on. Oh, I made a wrong change somewhere. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah. Codespaces. Rebuild container, yeah, that has moved. Okay, nice. So what this will do is it will actually now rebuild your dev environment. So don't be scared it goes away out of La La Land and it does this whole rebuild. And this is sometimes where I think the SQL fails. So we might want to kill the image, but we'll see what happens. But now it's adding in other stuff. So it's literally adding that httprepl for me. You know, it could have been anything else, but it's adding the httprepl for me. Are there any questions so far? Maybe online there's something, I don't know if...
Just curious, because what if you have like two repositories that are, let's say, both APIs and they talk to each other through whatever means?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Codespace is repository specific, or is it cross repository?
Yeah, so just also maybe for the rest, so the question is about multi-repository microservices in a sense, right?
And maybe not even containerized.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, most of our code spaces are repository bound, but you know they are targeting, I don't know what's the timeline or if it's available yet, but you can have mono repositories or you can have multiple repositories linking code spaces too. So it will probably be like configuration files that you set to say, hey, you can get this one there and it will magically work together. So it's definitely possible. Whether it's possible right now, I have no idea, but it's a thing they're targeting. So when at the end slides, I have a bunch of feature lists, and that's one of them.
Cool.
Exactly. And then building the container takes a few seconds. Let's see the logs inflating. Doing a bunch of. See, there's now doing the .NET.EF.
You can actually see what's going on.
The cool thing is you can also switch to Visual Studio Desktop. But I'll show that also in a sec now. Now maybe let's do that. So here I have a sandbox, Windows Sandbox. I don't know if people are familiar with Windows Sandbox. It's a Windows in Windows, right? It's good for presentations or demos that you don't want to break your machine or whatever. It comes with nothing except for the Windows bits, right? And the cool thing is when you close it, it kills it. So whatever you've installed, it kills it, right? There are ways of configuring it because it comes in with a WSB file, which you say, whenever you run this, it needs to install, Chocolatey and Visual Studio Code and all those kind of things. And this is what I've done to have this specific image that only has Git, Node, and Git Visual Studio Code installed in a kind of a native environment, right? It's a non-browser environment. Okay, just coming back to my browser again. I think that's working, right? Yeah, that should be fine. So coming back here. So let's say Timmy is a new person that joined the team, and he got this Windows Sandbox from IT. Comes with Visual Studio Code, nothing else, right? Now he wants to start working on your project. What does he do, right? So let's first go and clone the repository. So we first need to go to the right one, and I think it's also going to ask me now to do a bunch of things here. So GitHub.com. This is totally unplanned. Let's just do it. I need to log into GitHub now, so it will ask me to two-factor authenticate myself. And this is password with a capital P. And then you need to fill in this thing. Okay, so Timmy is going to your repo. He's going to the demos repository. And he says, hey, I want to code. Let's go to Codespaces. My beautiful musical space meme is there. I'm going to pick that one. It can, of course, I can create my own one if I want to. And it will open up a browser again. But you know what? Actually, I'm going to open this up in Visual Studio. There's a setting you can set per person on your Visual Studio or on your GitHub repo that you can configure per user. They should choose Visual Studio Code instead of web-based. What is happening now? That's okay. Install and open. That's kind of instructing Visual Studio Code to install Visual Studio Code. It's amazing. So now it's installing Codespaces and all this kind of jazz. It takes a fair bit of time, but it's not that bad. Please sign in to connect to Codespaces. Okay. I have to go back again, sign in. I'm sure they're going to make this experience way better in the future, but hopefully the token is there already. I don't have to log in again. I have no idea what's happening now. Okay, now it wants to open up. So the token is there already again, so it will just toggle like that. Okay, now there's the web version. We don't want that. Let's go there. Yes, I want to just, don't ask me again. Open. Now, as we speak, the native application is a big word in this case, but the real Visual Studio application, Visual Studio Code application is now bringing down all those bits. The same things that you saw in the browser is exactly the same things that's now natively in the window, right? And in a sec, you will see the whole repo appear, just like we wanted it to appear. And a bunch of things like SQL is there. You know, all these things are basically streamed, right? It's nothing more than just streams of stuff. But nothing stops you from installing additional things on here. So, the world's your oyster. So if it's okay, I should have httprepl now set up, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully, if the demo gods are with me, just want to see how far we are with this whole initialize. Oh, look at that. It kept my commit. It's amazing. So it's still there somewhere, so it's not like it threw away the stuff, right? So let's be in CLI land again. Go .NET run. Little run application, please do not give me an error of SQL, because otherwise I need to redo this image. Let's see. Touchwood. Okay, that builds. It's super slow though. So it builds in the sandbox now, right? So, or it streams that from there. Maybe it's because it's using a different. I should just maybe close this one. Doesn't really matter. That is working. Please work. It's on its way. Unheld exception. That's where it happens. Let me just see where it came. Yeah, that's just not the problem. Okay. So what we will do is, this is the problem I had before. When you rebuild your container, it just breaks SQL. So what we'll do actually is we will just quickly, let me make that a demo. We've got some time left, right? So let's go to the web here. And let's I wonder if I can commit the code there, because it's kind of important. Added httprepl. Let's commit on master. Hopefully it will allow me to push. No, it broke. It broke, but it's okay. We'll just do it in old school way. We'll just do it in GitHub old school way, and then just do it there for now. I know that will work definitely. Let's go to where was this? Internet's a bit slowish. Okay, there we go. We need to set the dev container. We need to go to the Docker file. We need to remove that bad boy. Do not do this. I can, because just now committed something that's great now. But we have a code space running. So let's maybe manage all code spaces. We'll kill that person. Delete it. Oh, you can actually move. You can actually. I also saw today you can move the changes from your code space if there's like crucial changes that I've done now to a branch, and it will then be a branch that you can commit and do fancy things. I should have just done that. But anyway, this is now non-existent. It's attempting to connect. Let's not force the nature. Let's close that thing down again. Let's go to GitHub again. Let's kind of start over. Should be logged in. Look at that. Edge has been updated. We want to go to, there we go, Raytech Solutions. And we want to go to code. We want to go to create a code space on main. Now it's doing the same thing, it's just creating a domain. But now I'm actually going to see if I can open this up in Visual Studio Code. Okay. I think it should be going substantially quicker now. Yeah, okay, don't worry about that. Open, because it tries to figure out the previous one, see? All right, there we go, that one is the right one. And now we wait for a few seconds. I really like this, the stickers. I want to advertise the stickers. The VLC stickers, it's awesome. Legos, awesome. They say when you like do a presentation or demo or whatever, the demo hours when you show something, it's like when you prepare, it's like, oh, this is 2 minutes, it runs. But when you're actually like showing someone something on stage, it feels like 6 hours. Like, oh no.
You now actually need to go for it, and otherwise it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit of time and data, otherwise
Exactly. But I think it's done. You can actually see I think the logs here, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere. At some output window. There's actually something cool to see. Output.
I have a question.
Yeah, question.
.NET run, is that a predefined command within GitHub?
No, so the question is .NET Run a predefined command? No, so .NET Run is a completely different thing, excuse me, that's coming from .NET, the .NET tooling. So it brings in the whole .NET SDK inside Codespaces so you can run stuff. So technically you can, I have no idea if VLC has command line, yeah, so you can install the command line as SDK for VLC in there. Maybe we can do that. And then you have VLC at your fingertips in a code space.
To move all things first to GitHub.
No, well, you don't have to.
Packages.
So it already exists as packages. So NuGet is the package repository that you've been asked before. That's a package repository, but you also get like Maven and a bunch of NPM is also a package repository. You can bring packages from those sources, right, and then run it. What they also do is they mirror packages to different sources, different channels, because some folks like to use one channel other than the other, you know. Okay, now it's kind of installing the SQL tools. That should be there in a second. That's done. All right, so my little test is to quickly see if I can connect to the SQL server. If I cannot, I don't know. Password, that's the password, that's password. And in a sec, it should probably, yeah, there we go, that works. So it connects to the server, that's fine. And also, you know, lo and behold, we would have, I don't like bash, let's go to Zeesh. Let's see if httprepl is there, right? That's the main thing. httprepl is there, amazing. All right, so let's quickly quit there. So now, before we run anything, so let's go .NET Run. So I'm still Timmy, right? So I need to fix my bug. .NET Run, right? That runs the application. Because it's the first time it runs it on this machine or whatever, it will now run, you will see a bunch of things. When it runs, it does migrations of the database. It creates a database, puts data in there so that you see all the insert into statements. But typically now it's running on localhost 5001 or whatever. Pick your poison where you want to run it. Maybe let's run it on localhost 5001 or whatever, right? But I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay in the CLI as this Timmy. Timmy likes CLIs. So he likes REPL. So REPL allows you, no, not rep, HTTP REPL, right? So that's HTTP REPL. You can give it a endpoint. I think that's 5,000. And that's an endpoint that has a Swagger endpoint, or hosted as a Swagger endpoint. Before I run this, let me show you. C#, my whole application, which is bound to be here. Yes. Okay, come now. There we go. So basically, this is my application. I have a web application. I've got my entity framework context. I add my endpoints for my API Explorer, for my metadata of my API. And I also add my Swagger generation to create me a Swagger file from that metadata endpoints. Then if it's developer environment, I can expose a Swagger endpoint, which is basically your, will it actually work? Will localhost actually work here? I'm not sure it will. No, it won't. Oh, it actually forwards. Nice. No, it doesn't. Let me just see. So I will show you Swagger now in a second. But then there's my chores endpoint, right? So that's important, the /chores, okay? And it's a get/chores. And that's it. So the cool thing is about httprepl, it will scan your API for Swagger, basically your open API, really. And it will bring it into a CLI. So now I'm using my service in a CLI. So now I can go ls. Now I've got a back button, I've got chores. Now I can go cd chores. It's got tab completion even. Now I'm in chores. I can go, okay, now I know there's chores get, so I can get chores. It's not found, okay, well. Oh, I don't know what happens there. Okay, so the command was really get, right? Because we are already in chores, okay? There's my chores as my payload, but I can also go like that. CLS a thing. I can go get chores. That's the same thing, pretty much. So if you want to delete, you go delete chores, but this won't work, right? So if you go delete chores, it will, not that. Chores, whatever it is, it's not found or not implemented, so that endpoint doesn't exist anymore, okay? So Timmy has a mission. Timmy's mission now is to add, in my payload, I've got an ID and title and done, but who's done the task, right? Who's that lucky person that's done the task? So Timmy's mission now is to add the task in there. So it's very simple, right? So go to your code. Let's just kill that for a second. We go to, I think it's, yeah. I wonder now if GitHub Codespaces will be, GitHub Codespaces is supposed to, oh, it's running in there. This was working. I don't know if it's not working now again, but fine. So now it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of generating for me a bunch of things, but I don't really want that. So the more Codespaces work with me, the more it will understand what I want to do. But this small example, I just want the person in there, so that's fine. I save it. You know, typically then the workflow is then you need to go back and recompile your code, right? So then a way around that is go back here. So you have to go stop it, have to go .NET run, all those kind of things. But what you can do is you can go .NET watch build, and that's basically a watcher. So all the stuff that you're busy doing, it will automatically pick it up when you save it, and it will rebuild your application and spit it out. So now, when we go to httprepl, and if this thing is not giving me my get chores, cannot get, okay, maybe the connection has dropped. Okay, exit. httprepl, right, was it called? There we go. Get chores. Cannot assign request address. What? Is there a bug? Oh, I really, that's not what I want to do. Not .NET build, .NET run, there we go. Like what? Now it would work. Let's see, everything is fine, done. Now, my beautiful kids are there, Liam and Aria, persons. Bugs is fixed, but there's the bug fix there. We can do our little commit. and done. So quickly, a last bit of this demo. It's I'm not really going to hammer too much on this, but I've plugged my phone in here. So I've mentioned that you can clone GitHub from your phone. Let me just do that. And let me just exit this whole thing. So bye-bye. This will do that. And then I think this will then pop up. Reconnect. Loading my screen. So my session is still live on GitHub Codespaces. There we go. That's my screen, right? Oh. That's my screen. There we go. That's my Codespaces screen. So this is my phone that you see on the screen. So it's not a screen. It's my phone showing the screen. And if you bear with me, I'm just gonna, you see, reimagine space broccoli. That's amazing. Let's go in there. Setting up Codespaces on my phone, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm on the tray now. I want to do the bug fix. I don't even know what use case this can bring, but this is but there's Visual Studio Code running on my phone, right? All the stuff that's supposed to be there is there. I'm sure I can even get that goes to the home screen. Amazing. I'm sure I can even do that. That's working. That's cool. Let's do we have, oh, this doesn't work so well. Maybe just plus would work. That's it. Yeah, cool. Okay, that works. Why doesn't it? There we go. So let's see. Let's see if httprepl, you can't really see anything there, can you? There we go. HTTP, there we go. You see it's connected. Yay! So you can still test your code on your phone, which is quite cool. But it kind of works. So it shouldn't stop us from really working from not just from home, but from anywhere. I would say, because Codespaces ultimately it's just a bunch of VMs, right? So it's and the cloud doesn't exist. It's just someone else's computer that you're just misusing at the end of the day. I think that kind of concludes my kind of demo. Hopefully there's like 5 minutes left for answers. I don't know why my phone is, my thing is not working there. Let me see. So the new features, I'm just going to bring it up quickly. So there are new project types coming around, multi-repos and mono-repos they bring in. Pre-built images, also a powerful thing. Policies for collaborator permissions and cost control and port restrictions, which is amazing because then you can have IT still be the god of all, right? And whoever can control certain things. And what is very cool is the question we get a lot is, what about networking, VPNs and those kind of things, especially for enterprises. So what they have done is they kind of using your laptop as a proxy. The same way the tunneling works, as long as you're connected to the VPN, the tunnel will work the same way, so your image can get to the local machines in the network. So that's kind of basically it. And with that, I want to say thank you so much. Go check out my YouTube, GitHub, Twitch, and all those kind of wonderful things. And if you have questions, just ask me on Twitter or whatever. And I'm happy to help. Thank you so much for joining.